Hey guys, welcome back to the Eaton Homestead. I'm Danielle, and I'm gonna be honest with you. It has been over a month since I posted my first garden tour. My intention was to do it weekly. I have terrible self-discipline, so that's the first thing. The second thing is I've sort of been holding off because I've been really embarrassed. I hoped that I would have my garden together in better shape by now, but we've just been really busy and it's been crazy. We're doing another investment property, so all those things aside, here we are again. I just wanted to show you around a very honest look at my garden and where I'm at with my seed starting and getting the garden going. Today is Wednesday, April 21st, so it's still a little bit early. May 9th is my last frost date here. It's a little chilly, especially in the shade here this morning. So I have already put out most of my brassicas. I've got a couple more nights in the forecast where it looks like it will dip down to the low 30s, but I think after this week we'll start to be in a better place as far as the nighttime lows. And I'll show you why I'm so anxious to get things out, because per usual, I started way too much and I started it way too early. So now I have a literal jungle growing in my house of my things like tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. The peppers and eggplants will be okay, but the tomatoes are getting out of control. So I'm hoping to be able to get those out maybe this weekend or beginning of next week. Yeah, we'll see. I'll show you what they look like. But first, I thought, let me just show you around my garden outside where we're at right now. Again, it's a mess. It's not clean. There's just stuff everywhere, but this is life. And it's real life, so I figured I would just show it the way that it is. So let's take a look around. So these are my main garden beds. I have 13, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 raised beds, if you will, with some arched trellising throughout. And this was the majority of what I have done in the past, but I have continued to add on because of course your garden is never big enough. So the 13 beds were not enough space. But I have already started on this half, starting planting some of my brassicas out there in the back. Down on that end, I planted asparagus for the first time, so we'll see if anything comes of that. And then the rest of this space I use mostly for potatoes. So just taking a peek around. This is where I started some different broccoli varieties, a purple and a calabrese. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I've got Brussels sprouts down here, some cabbage, some snowball cauliflower. I also have started a ton of onions, so I'm just kind of sticking them in all throughout wherever I can because I've got so many. In this little bed is also just sort of a mishmash of things. Broccolis, there's some kohlrabies in here, which I don't know that I've ever actually eaten kohlrabi, so I'm hoping that some of these will come through. My seedlings do not look great. I brought them out and left them out in the cold, which they can take some cold, but I didn't really harden them off properly, so you can see a lot of this like sunburn damage on their leaves. Again, I'm just hot mess express per usual. These ones don't look great because the way that I started my seeds was I started them very thickly like this. So I planted them really dense, and then while they were teeny tiny little seeds, I just plucked out a few of the really healthy looking ones and I put them in their own individual cells. So those are some of these starts that look a lot better, were because they were started individually and given their own space. But because I don't have the heart to kill anything, I just kept them. They're all sitting in water because it rained last night. So I just kept them. So I have been here and there just plucking out some of the healthier looking ones and sticking them in the ground just to see what happens. I take a real gardening is an experiment approach. It's worth a try. If it doesn't look like it's going to work out, I'll just stick something else there. I used to be I tend to be kind of a type A person. Like I like things to be in order and very symmetrical. And when I first started gardening, it like really bothered me if everything didn't like germinate perfectly and things weren't in perfect lines. And I learned that I was wasting space doing that. So when one thing would die, I would just kind of leave this empty space there because it was like weird to me to stick something else random, but I've completely let that go. In the garden, I experiment, I have fun, I just stick things here and there. It's very free-spirited, and it gives me that like creative expression to do that. So when things don't germinate well, one of my go-tos is to just stick a green bean, like a bush bean, in those spots. So it makes harvesting the green beans a little bit harder because then I have to sort of do this scavenger hunt every time to remember where they were. But it's a good way to just kind of use up those 1 foot, 1 square spaces that I have in the garden that maybe didn't do so great. So again, coming over this way, I stuck onions along the outer edges of these. My plan is to plant mostly all of my arch trellises this year with squash, with winter squash varieties that will climb and just really take over the trellises. I've done cucumbers and I've done all these different things, but they never really like get that majestic look that I'm going for. So I decided this year to just go ahead and do them all with squash. I really love squash, so I grow a lot of it anyway. And I might as well put them on the trellises because they like to go crazy and look really cool. In this back bed here, I have some yellow heart winter choy, a few lettuces. Again, I just started sticking more onions in here. I've got some different varieties of kale, an ornamental fringed kale I'm really excited to try. Blue Scotch curled kale is what most of these are. Yeah. So I really love kale. I can eat a lot of it. I just like sauteing it up with my eggs in the morning for breakfast. This is my onion bed. I do have garlic in the back here, and then the rest is all onions. And I still have one more. Up here on this one, I did almost all purple broccoli, I believe, and then Brussels sprouts on the other side. I am really determined to get a good Brussels sprout harvest this year because last year the aphids were just crazy, and I think they sort of stunted and killed my plants before I really got a chance to harvest any Brussels sprouts. So fingers crossed, this year is the year. This bed is my strawberry bed, so I don't do anything. I just cover it up for the winter, and I just uncovered it, took its blanket off. Again, the blankets are everywhere, my blankets of straw piles. But these look amazing. And this bed I'm really proud of because it actually started with just 6 tiny little starts that I started from seed. So this has been like many years in the making now. But those 6 little starts that I started to spread the next year, and then they spread more the next year. And this bed is filling out really nicely, so I'm happy with the way that is coming along. And then I don't have anything. I have not amended these two, or those 2 beds yet. So I need to come in with this giant pile. It's a 50-50 mix from a local place that I had delivered. I got 15 yards, which was probably a bit too much, but I wanted to be able to top the beds up a little bit. So it's 50% loam or loam, however you say it, and 50% compost. And we have been using that to sort of amend this bed back here. I last year did this as like a Ruth Stout style, and it was all hay, all straw. And I did potatoes in it, but I sort of dug these like trenches and then filled the trenches with compost and put the potato starts right in the compost, and then continued to cover them with hay, straw, whatever. And this year I decided to just bring in some of this 50-50 mix and some compost mix and do it this way, but I'm going to put more straw on the top again because I really liked the way that worked out. The Ruth Stout method is essentially just planting right in straw. And I know that it works, but it feels a little weird to me, so I still bring in the compost. And this worked really, really well for me last year, especially with having that straw mulch on top. It suppressed a lot of the weeds. I didn't have to weed in here hardly at all, which was really nice because I'm terrible at weeding. I'm a bad housekeeper and an even worse garden keeper. So that is really nice, and I definitely want to bring in more straw just for that purpose, to be able to hill up the potatoes a little bit, really give them some good cover. It also holds in the moisture, which is really nice. So we had a really dry summer last year, and I'm not the best waterer to begin with. I don't have a drip irrigation or anything. Nate keeps saying we need to do it. I know we need to do it. I can't wrap my head around it. I also really like hand watering, but as the garden has grown and grown, it takes me like 2 hours now to hand water the whole garden. And when you need to be doing that every day, that's kind of a lot. So I don't know, but having this straw mulch has made a big difference for me in my garden as far as being able to keep moisture on the plants so they don't dry out in these really hot summers that we've had lately, and very dry summers, which they are talking about predicting another one this year. So that is definitely going to happen. More straw. I need to find more straw. So this is usually my carrot bed. I'll probably do that again. It looks like there's some weeds taken over in there, but my plan this afternoon is to take the blankets off of these beds and get some compost over here on them. I did order like way too much, yes, but my plan is also to spread this pile out over this entire area here, which this is all my in-ground garden bed. This performed amazing last year. I do have some challenges with it, just in that, I've said this before if you watch our channel at all, but the place that we decided to put the garden is not the best. It sort of was mostly just for convenience and sun, but this whole area right here, our house is right here. So this area right here is actually sort of like a ditch. It's a drainage all around our house. So this all right here, you can't really tell on video, but it slopes down very gently. So it collects water sort of down in the bottom, right in the middle, going through this garden, which is not a problem for the raised beds. They're fine. They drain really, really well. The walkways will get really soupy, but the plants are fine and the beds are fine. Over here, it gets pretty muddy and it gets pretty soupy in there. The plants have been fine. Like, I don't know why my children are yelling. Let's go check. My kids really like to chase the chickens and get them all worked up. So that's what you're hearing in the background. And I just reminded them that we are kind to the chickens. We don't chase the chickens. So as I was saying, this area tends to get pretty wet. The plants usually do okay, but it's really soft and it's really muddy. So I was hoping that by adding just a bunch more material to this, that might help with that a little bit, as far as getting really mushy. So we'll see. We need to spread that pile out, but first I need to finish filling up my beds. I also have a couple other little garden spots that I want to use this to get established. And yeah, I use the black, what do you call it? I use the black like paper. It's not paper. It's landscape fabric. There we go. I use the black landscape fabric. There's strips of it that come down. I burned holes in it last year. So I did mostly like melons and squashes on this side. We put up some sort of like this idea. We just did like T-posts with chicken wire or some different cattle panels and things to do rows of tomatoes, which we're definitely going to do again. And then this year I want to focus these rows on my like production tomatoes. So the tomatoes that I want to use primarily for making pasta sauce and tomato sauce and things like that. So as much as I love all the different varieties and all the different beautiful colors, I'm going to do those more in these beds just for fun. And then this will be more of like the production side of things. And then I've also done corn and pumpkins and all kinds of fun things in here. So once we get that spread out, we can get these landscape fabric back down. That's what all of the cinder blocks are for, was holding the landscape fabric down. I'd love to get sandbags or something a little less horrible looking, but one thing at a time, right? So I'm just pulling out all of the weeds and any like big woody roots that I left from last year. I try to cut stuff off at the base and then let it decompose in the soil. But some of it is just kind of, they're really tough and I don't want it taking up space in there. So I'm throwing it all in a bucket and throwing it in my composter. Normally I would use the tractor to move this stuff, but two things. First is we got, it seems a good amount of rain last night. Everything is really wet and really soggy. The ground here is especially muddy, and I've gotten the tractor stuck over on that side of the garden a couple of times now because the ground is too soft. So I don't dare pull the tractor out. The other thing is when we designed this garden, we didn't have a tractor. So we didn't plan for being able to drive it up and down the rows. So the tractor was helpful on these like outer beds where I could just kind of come up close to it and then shovel everything in. But on these beds that are in the middle and farther back, I can't really get in there with the tractor anyway. So old-fashioned wheelbarrow way it is. So one of the other garden areas that I'm trying to figure out is this spot right here next to our chicken coop. You'll probably hear them squawking in the background. I decided that I wanted to make like a cute little tableau garden here, but I never got around to doing it. I have ordered some things from Burgess Seed Company, and I just got them, so now I feel like I need to get them in the ground. I want to fill this trough up. It does already have holes in the bottom, but it's very deep anyway. Fill this up. I do have a climbing rose that I want to put in there. And then other than that, I just got a few different things to put in this area. It's sort of like half sun, half shade. It gets a good amount of sun like in the morning, but once the sun continues to move over that way, the shed shades it. The coop shades it. So most of the stuff that I got was all for a shade garden. So hopefully they will do well here, but I need to figure this out. I'm gonna work on that today. No promises that I'm gonna get it done. So I have just filled up the bottom, maybe halfway or a little less than halfway, with wood in this trough. Huh, bud? So now we're going to put some of that 50-50 mix in here to fill it all up. I just wanted to take up some space with wood, and then as that wood rots and decomposes, it will just make the soil that much healthier. I'm also noticing, which I knew, we've had rat issues out here in the past. I've found plenty of mice in the coop. Where there's chickens, there will be mice and rats, but you can tell that they've just burrowed underneath the coop. I found a few of these like things that I've had here have mouse nests in them. I pulled that one out. This one here. Guess it's not baby season, which is good, but yeah, I guess the mice will always live here. There's not really a lot we can do about that, now is there? So I'm going to get the tractor because I'm not wheelbarrowing down this much of that soil.
You did tractor.
Yep, I'm gonna get the tractor down here.
Okay, guys, we're gonna start loading up the tractor. So, yeah. Okay, let's get on the tractor and let's go. Mommy, not the tractor.
No?
Okay. It's Coleman Looney.
Looney's getting the spa treatment. Oh, Luna, what a pretty girl you are.
See if she has all that hair.
Oh, yeah. It's time for a good spring brushing, huh? Get rid of all that winter fur. Look at those little piles there. Oh, she loves it.
Yeah, those little piles.
She probably says, that feels so good, Amelia. Thank you. What a spa treatment.
And if she had any ticks on them, they would probably scratch off.
Oh. Ticks are easier to find on Luna because she's so light colored.
Yeah.
It's Echo that's hard to see them.
Yeah, I don't think Echo's gonna stay this still.
Yeah, probably not.
She's probably just
Luna's
gonna...
probably says, that hair was so itchy. That feels so good. Oh, yeah.
And I brush her ears too because that's kind of furry too. I forgot up here. See, she just loves it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm sort of racing against the rain as well as my battery's about to die, but I wanted to show you really quickly before we head inside and I show you what's going on in there, that today, it's a little bit later on in the afternoon now, and I did get this garden sort of put together. So I just brought down some of that 50-50 mix with the tractor because it was a couple tractorfuls, but I put all of the shade garden stuff that I had bought in here. This is a climbing rose, so I hope to put some just like chicken wire or something against the wall here so that this rose can grow up the side of the coop. We do still have to pull out that broken glass and finish framing that window out. I have the white paint to do the trim. I just haven't done it yet. But yeah, I put everything in here. Let me check my note. I put everything in here that I had bought off of Burgess. There's a couple Regal Blue hostas, some mixed Astebe? How do you say that? Somebody tell me. Some blue columbine, some lily of the valley, some cinnamon fern, and some mixed Trinity plants. So I don't think it's enough to really fill it all out, but I got that in here anyway. And then I can add some more annuals in here just to help fill it out this year. Hopefully some things that are really good self-seeders so that I don't have to maintain this little garden space a whole lot. But I wanted to do something because this side of the coop just kind of looked kind of ugly and I want it to be pretty this year. So as promised, we are back inside. We beat the rain. Thankfully, Nate came home just in time to realize I had left the tractor out, so that's put away. And the rain is coming down now, so it got really cold really fast. But this is what I was talking about as to why I am ashamed to share this with you right now. I started my tomatoes way too early. I started my peppers way too early on purpose, and I'm still okay with that decision, but my tomatoes are a mess. So I've got these two trays down on the ground. These are about almost hip height on me, so they're real big. And then I've got them in the windows, everywhere. It's just craziness. All up here in the top shelves are the peppers, which they're still fine. They are constantly trying to set blossoms, and I just keep coming through and picking them off. I don't want them setting blossoms right now. I don't want them working on putting their energy into trying to make fruit while they're just in these little cups. I just want them to be strong and healthy and big so that when I put them out, hopefully they will perform better for me. I live in Maine, and it doesn't get super hot here, so I have found that peppers really enjoy the heat, dry heat, and that is not what we have. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get peppers to perform well for me here. But I'm feeling better about this year. I went through and I topped all these pepper plants off as well because they were getting so big to encourage like the suckers to grow and bush out to make the plants, you know, sort of bigger and bushier that way. So we'll see how that goes. But my poor tomatoes, some of these are looking pretty dry. They need water. It's just hard to keep them watered the bigger they get. They like completely don't even fit in the shelves anymore. They're just growing wild everywhere. I've got a whole bunch of oregano back here. So this can probably go out because this is fairly cold hardy. So we'll see. Hi, Leo. That smells so good. And then over here on this window, more ridiculous tomatoes. I mean, they look okay. Some of these were ones that I had started a little bit later. And they'll be all right. But like, these are not very happy. They're just reaching to try and get some sun because everything is just growing up through the back of the windows. A couple more peppers in here. Got some lemon balm and some lemon mint that I've been using to make tea. So yummy. Oh, the lap dog.
This one's my food.
And then some more sad looking tomatoes. And up here are my eggplants, which are also getting like super ginormous. But I'm still okay with this. They'll be fine. It just means I have to keep them alive for longer inside. I probably won't plant my peppers and eggplants out until maybe June-ish, so I've got another month to go to keep them going inside. And the reason for that is that we don't have nighttime temps that stay around 50 until about June. So I've been watching very closely, and our last frost, as I mentioned, is May 9th. We have a few nights, I think tonight being one of them, and maybe a couple more this week, where the evening temps are supposed to drop down to the low 30s. But after that, the temperatures are staying fairly well into the higher 30s, 40s. Once we get into May, the evening temperatures should stay in the 40s. So things like tomatoes will be really forgiving to those, 40-degree nights. But things like peppers and eggplants, I have found, can get very stunted at those temperatures. They really want it as hot as possible. So I'm going to try and keep those in as long as I can. I feel better about that. The tomatoes are what's just getting out of control on me. The nice thing about it, though, is that tomatoes, if you've ever noticed, on their stem have little fibers, little hairs, and tomatoes actually want to be like a vining plant. They want to grow along the ground and set roots. So anywhere on that stem, you can plant it really, really deep, and all those hairs are just going to set out roots. So you can either dig a really, really deep hole to plant super tall tomatoes like that in, which I will do in my in-ground area. But in my raised beds, what I will do is I'll sort of dig like a trench. So I'll lay the, the root ball down. Leo's being crazy. I'll lay the root ball down and then sort of lay the stem underneath the earth, and then I'll bring it up and bring the plant up that way. So it'll sort of like sit tucked back in, and then all where that stem is, I'll, take any leaves off that are going to be under the ground. But all where that stem is will just set off roots. So they'll be fine. It's just a little bit more of a pain in the butt for me to have to plant a bigger plant. But they will be fine. So I am trying to hold out until this weekend, maybe next week, to get my tomatoes out. Like I said, I think that they will be okay in those cooler evening temps. But we'll see. And then last thing, I still have a few things out here. Just a few flowers and stuff. I have some amaranth. This is Love Lies Bleeding, which I really, really love. It's one of my favorites. So I got a few of those started. Some different flowers that I had started, daisies, echinacea, chrysanthemum, and some more hollyhocks. And then in here, I have a whole bunch of alyssum, some zinnias. I started some cosmos, marigolds, more zinnias. These are the peppermint stick zinnia, so I'm really excited to see those this year. A little bit of lettuce, and then some herbs. I've got dill and cilantro. Some are savory. My sage didn't come up on this one, but this sage did, and some parsley. So just getting these ready so that once it gets warm enough, I have some things to start with. So that is pretty much everything. Like I said, I got that little garden started, got a lot of those perennials, those shade-loving perennials in there. So hopefully I can add more things to that as we go. And the only other big garden thing that I have to do is get my potatoes ready. So I ordered some potatoes online. I also went to my favorite nursery and bought a whole lot of potatoes. And I'm just going to cut these up, divide them, so that I can make more plants out of it. So anywhere where there's eyes, I can separate it and let it dry, kind of scab over, and then I'll plant them that way. So I need to get these cut so that they can have a few days to dry out before I plant them out in the garden. But that compost is already spread and ready to go. So yeah, it's a busy time. Busy time for homesteading, busy time for us, busy time for gardening. I'm really excited, tired, but really excited. If you haven't had the chance yet, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps our family to grow our channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.